Hey guys, it's Dogs and welcome to my channel. So today I'll be doing a discussion video of cards I've been testing in Bigbelly. My main aim with this Bigbelly build was to try and make my deck as tanky as possible, to draw as many cards as I can, but also put pressure on the opponent. So with that out of the way, we'll first read over to what Bigbelly actually does. So Bigbelly has two skills. So on the Vanguard circle, when your rear guard is retired by a card's ability, during each battle phase or each end phase, you may draw a card. And then on the Vanguard circle, when it attacks, you can counterblast one, choose one of your 20,000 or greater rear guards and stand it. And if you have a grade 3 in your soul, you can stand all of your 20,000 or greater rear guards. So the main skill we're looking at from Bigbelly is its first skill, being able to draw cards each time a rear guard is retired during each battle phase or each end phase. So by having ways to retire cards, or gaining extra effects to retire and draw more cards, we can start making a very tanky version of Bigbelly. So how exactly do we make Bigbelly more tanky? Well, we'll be going through that now on how we achieve that. So, from the cards I've been testing, the most, the most promising one actually has been the Tester Fox Legion Retrain. So, what does Tester Fox do exactly? So, it has two skills. So, it's placed on the Vanguard rear guard circle. You can counterblast one and put two cards from the drop on the bottom of your deck in any order. And this unit gets plus 5,000 power until the end of the turn. But if one of each normal unit and trigger unit is put for the cost, you can search your deck for up to one Illusion Scientist Research Fox, call to rear guard, and shuffle your deck. And then it has a second skill on the Vanguard and rear guard circle once per turn to Soul Blast 1, choose one of your rear guards, and it gets power plus 10 until the end of the turn. And then at the end of the turn, retire that unit. And if retired Illusionist Scientist Research Fox, draw a card. And then its counterpart, Research Fox, its skill is on an additional rear guard circle, when a card is put from your deck into the drop, it gets plus 5k power. And then its second skill is when this unit is retired from rear guard circle at the end of the turn, you can counterblast one, search your deck for up to a grade 3 that is the same on your Vanguard circle, and add it to your hand. So why exactly do we run the Tester Fox Legion? Okay, so I'll explain why we do that. So the Tester Fox Legion allows us to create two rear guards for a counterblast of one, which in a deck where we don't want to commit too much but still put pressure on, that really does help our strategy. So when Tester Fox calls out our Research Fox, if we then proceed after we've caught it to Soul Blast 1 and give our Research Fox the 10k power, when the Research Fox does die, we get to draw one from Tester Fox, and we also get to draw a card from the Research Fox. But we can go even further with that, because if we use Research Fox for an additional counterblast, we can also search a copy of our Vanguard and add it to my hand. So for a counterblast of 2, or altogether, and a Soul Blast of 1, Tester Fox has called a Research Fox. So we've gotten a rear guard on the board for relatively easily, and we've plussed 3 in hand. I think that is actually quite good. Now, with its second skill being able to give Research Fox plus 10k, if the Research Fox is on an additional rear guard circle, it swings for 24. So what we could also do is, if we don't want to use Research Fox's ability to search for our Vanguard, we could actually use a counterblast for Bigbelly's skill to restand the Research Fox. So we can get a total of 4 attacks altogether, and plussing 2 in our hand instead of 3, which I think is perfectly fine, since we've only called one Tester Fox and we've produced 4 attacks, or we've again called one Research Fox from Tester Fox and we've plus 3 in hand. So in either scenario, I feel like that is a win-win for us. Now the next card I've been testing, which I really am liking, is the Coiling Duckbill. So it has 2 skills. When this card is discarded from your deck, you can Soul Blast one and put this card into your hand. But then its second skill, which we use in Bigbelly the most, is when your other regards retire by card's ability, during your turn you can Soul Blast one, retire this unit and draw a card. So this card works very well in tandem, for example, with our Tester Fox. Because again, with Tester Fox, what it does is it makes us call out an Illusionist Scientist Research Fox to Reguard Circle and shuffle our deck. But then we can also Soul Blast one to give the Research Fox plus 10, and then when it dies, we draw a card from Tester Fox. So what we could do is, if we want to use both the effects of Tester Fox and Research Fox all together, we again would draw 3. But on top, if we use the Duckbill, since the Duckbill would see the Research Fox dying, by Soul Blasting one, we can tile this unit and draw a card. But then on top, since Bigbelly's seen the Duckbill die, we draw an additional card. So we're calling 1 Duckbill and 1 Tester Fox. If we decide to resolve the skills of all the cards we're using, we draw 5. That is honestly quite good. It can potentially get us closer to more key pieces, so when we get to Stride, we can go like a full combo. So we could potentially do a big Caladrius turn using our Rhinos and using our the Bigbelly Reguards. The success one I can't remember the name off the top of my head, but to just stand the Rhino multiple times on a Caladrius effect, and we can do a really big turn because we've been able to draw a few cards because of Duckbill and Tester Fox. We're not really committing too much. So Duckbill has definitely been quite nice in the build, as again I'm aiming to have a tanky version of Bigbelly, because that's kind of what I think is going to try and help me get to later stages of the game when Balaurel can be quite threatening, or with something else you can do with the deck, which is to eventually get to your Overtrigger, draw to have like a few cards left in deck, make sure the Overtrigger is going to proc off, and then we can kill the opponent. Next we have the Blusher Parakeet. This is a kind of a card I've also been testing as well. So its skill is on the Vanguard of Regal Circle. We can counterblast 1, look at 7 cards from top of your deck, reel up to 1 grade 3 from among them, put it to your hand, shuffle your deck. Then this unit gets plus 3 cans on the turn. But if this unit is on a Reguard Circle, at the end of the turn retire this unit. So this isn't too bad of a Vanguard ride when we have to ride it, as it can potentially search us for our Hill Guardians, it can search us for our Rhinos, it can search us for our Vanguard Bigbelly, it can also search us for the Vanguard Bigbelly. So since a lot of our strong key pieces are grade 3, it only made sense to try and run Parakeet to make sure we get our key pieces as quick as possible, so that when we get to our Stride turn, we are trying to put maximum output when we can, as quick as possible. So Parakeet definitely helps with that, but because it also retires itself on a Reguard Circle, if for some reason we have managed to find a grade 3, when Parakeet retires itself, Bigbelly lets us draw 1, and then when we use Duckbill, by Soul Blasting 1, it retires itself, it draws a card for its own ability, and then we draw 1 from Bigbelly. So essentially we have plus 4 cards in our hand. Again, Big Duckbill actually does so much work on this deck. It's great. I'm really loving this card. Next we have Less Rider. So Less Rider has 3 skills. So it has success 20,000. So when your Reguard becomes 20,000 or greater during your turn, this unit becomes successful until the end of the turn. And then also has a continuous ability on the rearguard circle. If this unit is successful, all of your units with the success ability get plus 2k power and continuous on the Vanguard and rearguard circle resist. And then lastly has an arc skill on the rearguard circle. Once per turn you can soul blast 1. This unit becomes successful until the end of the turn, and at the end of the turn retire this unit. So the reason why we run Let's Rider in our build is when we're trying to high roll with a Caladrius, we want to make sure that our talented Rhinos does not get Denial Griffin or Pseudo Denial Griffin. So I have mentioned Rhinos a couple times now. So what Rhinos is it's a grade 3 that has success ability, and on the rearguard circle, when it becomes successful, it gets plus 4k power, and then when it attacks, when the opponent would guard, they cannot guard with grade 0s. And then with Caladrius skill has the ability of when it attacks, it can stand a 30,000 or greater rearguard, and when it does, it gives it the triple guard con ability, so you have to guard with 3 cards at once or more. So if you combine that with Rhinos, the opponent has to guard with grade 1s or greater, but it can also use G guards. They cannot use grade 0s. So it can make their attacks a lot harder to guard, as they're restricted from using certain grades from their hand. Caladrius also allows us to give 10k to the front row, so most of the time we can hit this accessibility very, very easily. Caladrius was definitely a great addition to Great Nature. It definitely helps out a lot, especially in a Bigbelly deck, since again, when Caladrius gives the rearguards the skill of the 10k, they do retire at the end of the turn, which means Bigbelly sees the retires and we draw more cards. So we're being aggressive, but then we're also getting hand advantage. So Caladrius definitely really helps with that. I'm really liking Caladrius, such a great card. Next we have Compass Lion, another card I've been testing as well. So it has an auto Vanguard and rearguard circle. At the end of your turn, choose one of your rearguards and retire it. So this is a great Vanguard ride if we can get it on a grade 2 turn, as Great Nature unfortunately hasn't been the best at grade 2 games. We kind of pop off when we get to our stride turn. Sometimes we can pop off on grade 3 depending on how well we open, but for the most part we mainly really do pop off on the stride turn. But the problem is we need to get to the stride turn first, so we don't want to be taking too much damage in the early game, as if we do take a lot of damage in the early game, we could potentially be up struggle straight if we can't draw too many cards or can't find an out to not die. So Compass Lion definitely helps with that if we can potentially ride it. I also do like this ability of being able to choose one of your rearguards and retire it, because by doing that, if we use it on the rearguard circle, Bigbelly will see the rearguard retire and we draw a card. So if we also combine Compass Lion, just say with Duckbill for example, Compass Lion essentially makes it a +3, as Compass Lion retires 1, so we draw 1 from Bigbelly, and then Duckbill retires itself from Soul Blaster 1 to draw 1, and then Bigbelly sees the retire from Duckbill and we draw another card. So as you can see, Duckbill is definitely a very, very good addition to the Bigbelly deck. As I said, we're trying to be as tanky as we can, so Duckbill definitely helps a lot, and having other ways to retire and get more pluses to really abuse Bigbelly's skill definitely helps a lot. Next we have Measured Fossa. Now this is one that I've been testing, but I'm not liking it too much. It's still good if you wanted to try it, but it has 2 skills. So when it's placed on the Vanguard or rearguard circle from hand, you can counterblast 1, look at 2 cards on top of your deck, and call up to 1 card from Nong into the rearguard circle, and put the rest into your drop zone. And then auto rearguard circle once per turn. When it attacks, if your Vanguard is grade 3 or greater, you can Soul Blast 1, choose one of your rearguards, and it gets power +10 till the end of the turn. And at the end of the turn, retire that unit. So the first ability is quite nice, being able to create a board, again with a bit of an effort, just being able to counterblast 1, potentially +2 on the board, since itself doesn't have Vanguard, which can be prime retire targets for Bigbelly, especially if we go to our strides that makes us retire our front row. Bloral also has the ability to make us retire our front row for a Soul Blast. But then also its second ability, which is when it attacks, if your Vanguard is grade 3 or greater, you can Soul Blast 1, does not need reguards, it gets power plus 10 until the end of the turn. At the end of the turn, retire that unit. So we can potentially make a reguard bigger, just say for example our talented Rhinos. We can probably take it from 30 to 40k. So we can make a really big Rhinos. Again, we can make it harder to guard as well, since Rhinos stacked with Caladrius is free to guard with no grade 0s. Which means they're forced to guard a lot of normal units from their hand, or they're forced to G-guard. Again as well, if we also do have less Rider under giving the Rhino resist as well, it just makes Rhino that harder as well. Forcer also does help with retiring some of our back row, since both our Bloral and our Caladrius don't actually target the back row. So if for some reason we need to retire a back row rearguard, just so we can get more hand advantage, as just say for example you don't have a G-guard yet, but maybe that one extra card can get us there, Fossa can definitely help with that. So again, yeah, just recapping, Fossa just really good at potentially making getting us some extra rearguards. So retire fighter for Bigbelly once we've applied our pressure for that turn, and again, yeah, just giving someone extra tank power to potentially make attacks much harder, or make the opponent guard with more cards from their hand. And then lastly, we do have the Problem Child Bigbelly. So it has a success ability just like the Lesser Rider, and then it also has the Auto Reguard Circle once per turn, GB1, and Soul Blast 1. When this unit is successful and attacks the Vanguard, if you have a Vanguard with Bigbelly in its card name, you can pay the cost. If you do, choose up to 2 of your other reguards, and until the turn, they get plus 4k power, and Auto Reguard Circle at the end of the turn, draw a card and retire this unit. So this card has definitely been very promising as well. The reason is that Bigbelly stacked on top of Bigbelly means we can draw even more cards. So for example, if we have 4 reguards on the front row, because we've gotten 2 XL2s, we would normally draw 4 from Bigbelly, but because we also have Bigbelly's skill lingering as well, we get to draw 6. Combine that with Duckbill, we could have 8 cards. Combine it with 2 Duckbills, we have 10 cards. So you can see very quickly that Bigbelly combined with Bigbelly can allow us to draw more cards for not really paying much of a cost, just a Soul Blast. That's why I like the Bigbelly too. Also, the 4k does actually mean something too, depending on what power the reguards to. So on our 9k to become 13, which hit force numbers, and then also on our 11k to hit 15. Just altogether, also a very another solid card that I've really been enjoying. Again, helps make the deck tankier. As I said, the main aim of my build is I want to make sure that we can draw a big amount of cards so we can easily survive the opponent's onslaught. Alrighty, so that is the end of my discussion of cards worth testing in Bigbelly. If you did enjoy the video, please leave a like. Don't forget to subscribe if you can, and while you're down there, hit the notification bell so when I upload next, you will be notified. Alright, thank you so much guys for listening to my long talk.